yes, awful things have happened. Yes, there have been travesties and all of this stuff, but you can be the change. You can be the reason why somebody believes again. You can have the audacity to dream again. You know, all of us were little kids at one point. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be this. Let yourself be that, right? So believe, take action, make a plan.
Today's guest is Geraldine Carriere, founder and CEO of Wild Women Personal and Professional Development, best-selling author, international speaker, business coach, and recording artist. Welcome, Geraldine.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I was so excited that I woke up at 5 a.m. today.
Wow. That's absolutely wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you more and hearing a lot about the unbelievable things you've done. I have to say that you have done so much and just an inspiration.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's really nice to be such a hardworking person and, you know, have people acknowledge that work because, of course, so much goes into this. A lot of, you know, blood, sweat, and tears go into the work. And again, for me, of course, it's more so a responsibility and a privilege to be able to get to do the work that I do. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. So with that said, what is one of the most courageous things you have done? Now, bearing in mind, you have done so much. Can you possibly pick one?
Well, again, I think that's why I was up at 5 a.m. because, of course, you know, for me, I went into a lot of conversations to kind of delve within myself to see what is the most courageous thing. Because, of course, you know, I asked people around me, my confidants, and, you know, they would list a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know, that's great. But to me, it was like, you know, that's kind of basic, or that's like, you know, and not to say that their work is not basic, but what I meant was that for me, I think that, you know, my sense of grit and responsibility and sense of purpose was really one that was developed at a very young age. And when I say that, this story comes to mind where my dad, he tells me the story of when I was, I think, 5 years old. It was the first time I got a bike. And he said, you know, you rode that bike and you were so excited. You were just full of joy. And, you know, you'd be like, Dad, come out and watch me. And he goes, be careful. Because I was trying to go with no hands, right? And he said, don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. And I was like, no, I'm not. And eventually what happened, right? I wiped out, scraped the side of my face. The bike was upside down and around me. And, you know, I was crying there on my knee on the ground, and my dad came up to me and he goes, I see what I told you. You were going to hurt yourself. And I sat there and just kind of like this, like, you know, and he tells me that he tried to take the bike away, and he's like, okay, you can't be, you know, you're clumsy. You're not going to take care of yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. And I took it back from him and I was like, no, like, that's not going to happen again, right? More so. And he tried to take it again. And I was, hey, like, I got this, you know? And he was like, just the level of, you know, conviction you had. And you really made me believe you that you weren't going to do it again, that it was, you know? And so I think that he tells me that that was a time when I really learned that you had something different about yourself and that I could trust you. And so I think that developed in me at a very young age, that life it's very beautiful and there's a lot of, you know, scary things that happen. You know, it's a series of problems that you get the joy to figure out, and that, you know, it's all about what you learn from those experiences and how and what you do with them. So I guess that's kind of been the way that I've went about my life. And so going to your question, what is the most courageous thing that I've done? Now, of course, I come up with a list, right? And I went through it and I was like, okay, let me see what are the biggest things. And I guess to kind of start the conversation, outside of that being 5 years old, once I, was an adult and kind of was going through the experiences of high school and different things, I've always found that I was always kind of a truth teller.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is, I've been in positions where I had to call out bad behaviors, or, the elephants in the room, the things that people are hush hush about. Those were the things that I couldn't not talk about it, because there was like this siren that was going off of. I'll give you an example. Um, there was one time I was working for an organization, and of course, I'm an Indigenous person. And so we were talking about volunteering for an opportunity. And, the old people that were in the room, they talked about, our young people, they don't want to carry on our tradition and our values anymore. They're embarrassed to be Indigenous, and they don't know their language and all this stuff. And of course, me, sirens, sirens, sirens. I was like, you know? And I was like, with all due respect, if I fail to be an Indigenous person, it's because you failed to teach me.
Wow.
And they stopped. Everybody stopped. And that's kind of like, I'm used to that reaction, because it's like, it's kind of out of line, but it's also true. And so people don't know how to take that type of stuff, right? So again, it was, after I said that, I just kindly sat down and I just left it on the table. I didn't necessarily have solutions at that point. I was just kind of going through the motions of understanding that, hey, people don't like what is going to cause, disruption, dissension. And I was like, why? It's so fun. Like, to me, it was an invitation, so I guess I carried that with me. And then again, same thing, I went through a whole bunch of different stuff. There was another, I guess, social media. As I kind of grew and came to be, I got everything that I did kind of built my conviction and the fact that I was just this person. There was another opportunity where I actually had to ask a very important question. Because of course, I'm this influencer type of person, and I kind of hold a light to different topics. And in this one instance, I asked a very controversial question. It wasn't that controversial, but basically I was watching a podcast that day, and the podcaster was asking a panel of people. He said, so just in general, do you think that Black people play the victim? And there's PhDs and these great people who had all this commentary, and they talked about the history of our people and oppression and all the stuff that they had gone through. And I was like, wow, that's an incredible question. And I was like, I want to ask that too. And here, again, I come from a very curious, innocent space of like, I would just want to know what people are going to think about this, right? And I asked the question on my social media, and at the time I was doing lives, and it was a very a space where I started conversations, and you wouldn't believe the degree of people that came to comment on this, right? It was like, I can't believe you would say this. I can't. And it was just again, PhDs, lawyers, people who I didn't even know knew I existed, came to comment on this conversation and this thread. And then people then started to, attack my character and the way that I do things. And it was just very interesting to me that, it was such a hot button. And that's what I thought. I was like, excellent, because to me, I believe that having conversations are imperative to growth. And yes, it may be uncomfortable, but once you get over that discomfort, there's an allowance of connection and unification and faith and trust, and creating that safe space is crucial to me and everything that I do. That yes, it might be uncomfortable, but it's after you get past that is where you can actually be free, right? So those are two huge ones, but I think like the biggest one currently right now in my life, like those are just a couple like little examples that build up to this big one, is my current project, which is my EP. So, oh my goodness, Anita, how much time do we have?
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So let's go with it. Honestly, and it's true what you're saying, just in that little bit. You say something honest, raw, and people don't like it. What's going on with the world this day and age?
It really is. And I guess, okay, before we get to the album, I do want to talk about another like step that was very big in this direction of, really digging my feet into what I needed to say. And I have a book in my chapter, and it's a controversial chapter. I always say this to people because it's, I probably can't even say it on this podcast. It's basically see life. And so what I'll explain a little bit about it. And so basically what it is I have very controversial mentors, people like Tupac Shakur. I don't know if you know much about him, but he has a tattoo on his chest, and it's Thug Life. And it's an acronym. It is an acronym for the hate you give little infants F's everyone. And so basically what it means is that, you are a product of your environment. And if you don't put good things into things, you can't get good things out. And so he's basically talking about the martyr, the underdog, the gutter person. And so he's basically like giving a voice to that, right? And so I basically coined that for myself and put sea life. I'm sure you can come up with, you could imagine what that means, right?
Yes.
It is basically the most derogatory word used to women. And I use that to myself because I'm like, again, interesting, right? Why is this word so derogatory? What's the point? Like, what is the message? And so again, I took back the power of that for myself. And so I go into a whole thing. It's a whole chapter. I've written a whole other chapter. It's one of the things that I talk about. But basically, it's all about, in society, if you are not, if you're a woman who talks back, if you have an opinion, if you don't, let things slide underneath a rug, you are considered a B or a C. And it's like, why? Right? Of course, being an Indigenous person, we are very matriarchal. So we're very vocal. We are at the same level as men, right? We're equals. And so men understood that in historical times, if you want to look at God, you look at a woman because she's the only thing that can create from that space, which is, the divine. And so she needs to be held to that esteem, right? So again, women were consulted in their decision making because they knew they were so tapped into the divine that they could never even understand. So that's why women were equal to men. And so again, drawing on that is again teaching women, if they knew the power of their worth and their words and their decisions and just how they're energetically impact everybody around them, just how amazing that would be. So that's what that book is, that chapter is about. And again, imagine me being a human resource professional. Imagine me being this influencer person. Imagine me being the good girl, the one that's always there, that's, but also having a very strong opinion about things. Just imagine how much, stress that can cause, not only for myself, but others, right? So yeah, that is a huge one. But I'm going to get to the last point and the most courageous thing that I'm doing right now, which of course is my album. And Anita, my goodness, it has been a wild ride. And I say that because I think for me, the fine line between, again, being the influencer, being the, of course, that I'm very tapped into spirituality. I draw from a lot of my traditions and values, and I represent a people. So I kind of always walk this fine line between being responsible, but also having the ability to let myself speak freely, the freedom to express. And so that's what I'm experiencing with this album, because of course the first song is called Can I Be Her? Like, hello, like, right? It's basically all of those parts of myself that I do hide away. I do the opinions that I have that I don't speak about publicly, because again, I don't want to cause dissension or, disrupt people's peace, or I always want to leave people better than I left them and their dignity intact. So this album for me was both a question, but also a declaration of who I am right now. And so again, Can I Be Her it's this fun, quirky, almost ditzy, joyful girl. It's like Barbie, right? And so I let myself be that character in this first song, but it's an invitation again to getting to know Jer. And then the second song is Are You My Type, which again is more like sexy, and it's about love and sensuality and falling in love again. And then the second song is, or the third is called Blessed in My Heels, which again is a declaration that every single, step that you hear, the cackle on the ground, is my declaration of my strength and my power that's coming to you. You're about to be blessed, right? So again, it's all very interesting, but the next 2 or 3 that are coming out are a little more risky. They're a lot more less tactful, I'll say.
Mm.
And what it is, though, it's in order for me to move into the next step of my career and to truly embody this level of leadership, I guess, I need to unravel and release all of the stuff that's kind of holding me back from that space, if that makes any sense to you. One of the things that I wrote about, again, I wrote a bunch of stuff because I'm like, I want to say it in the right way, right?
Yes.
The quotes, I guess the album is, there are explicit themes, explicit words, but basically it's like a coming clean with Geraldine. It's an unhardening of my heart. It's removing the hate and releasing the pain. But the moral of the story is that, my whole life I never wanted to be a victim. I wanted to be a solution. I never wanted to solicit myself or my story. And I'm telling people that I give you what I want the way that I want to. I want to be a solution and a change maker, somebody that actually helps the situation. And, I think with a lot of that stuff, if people can see the humility in that, then I've done my job. And if they can't, that's also great. And it's okay. Right. But I guess I've come to the conclusion that, I'm grown up. I'm, the age that I am. I've gone through the trenches. I know the impacts of my word and the power of the things that I do, but I never wanted to affect, people's peace or remove their dignity. But these things hurt me and they affected me for years. And it's kind of like, my vindication of myself, my justification to myself of, yes, these things have happened, but they're not who I am, if that makes any sense. And I guess, the one thing too that I wanted to mention is that, just because I act happy and I put myself all together and I'm in this celebratory space in my life, it doesn't mean that I haven't been hurt or that I haven't been affected. It's just that I've chosen not to let those things have power me or over me. And, sometimes I think that people look at me and they think that, maybe she's lucky or she has more privilege than us or whatever it is. But, I have gone through a lot of stuff too. I have the trauma and scars to prove it. It's just that I don't let them own me. And this album is a form of me unburdening myself, because I feel like I've dedicated my entire life to, being that source of inspiration and that light for other people. And, I think I've earned this for myself. This is a reflection of the things that have happened to me. And I recognize that I am not those things. And I want that to be the message to people, right? It's encouraging for my evolution, that I give myself the permission. And that's just for me. We all have this power to free ourselves from the prison that we keep ourselves in, whether it's us holding back or telling half truths or concealing information. And that's what I want my message to be to everybody is, at the end of the day, people are going to judge you regardless of what you do. I can sleep with myself at night and know that, I've done my best at where I'm at this point in my life. And, sure, would other people do that? Maybe not, or say things that I do. But again, I think that only imperfect people expect perfection. All I can do is tell my truth and stand in it and be who I am right now. And that's what I would expect from other people, is to allow that to happen. I truly wake up every single day for the youth, for the next generation of people who are coming after me, that they know it's possible, that, I want to be that example for people to see that, it's okay to not have the right answer. It's okay not to have everything put together. And you don't have to feel shunned. You don't have to feel shame. You don't have to feel guilt. That, that acceptance for ourselves, that actually starts with ourselves. And I want them to know that you don't have to ever give up. You don't have to hide away just because you've done something or you said an improper thing. That's what I want my message to be, is for everybody to feel that same way, that, hey, it's radical acceptance, it's self-love, and it's really letting yourself be and show up in that version of yourself every single day. So long answer, but
Absolutely love all of it. And it really is. It's vulnerability to the core. And like you said, you're not being a victim with it, you're just telling it how it is. And
Hmm.
people find it hard to accept the truth, the real reality of things sometimes. That, when we live in a world where it's got to a stage where we can't say what we want. Okay, I understand that you've got to be respectful, but at the same time, you need to be yourself. It's emotional depth, it's your feelings, and you're just expressing how you feel. And aren't we supposed to be allowed to express how we feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that that is like and being an Indigenous person. I don't know how many people have met Indigenous people in their lives. And, when I do speeches or I talk publicly, I always tell people I'm Indigenous. And they'll be
Mm.
like, what is that? And it's because, my great grandmother didn't get to be Indigenous. It was
Mm.
systematically, governmentally a rule that they wanted to abolish our culture and our race. And I mean, I look at that and again I'm like, excellent, right? Because for me, I'm like, there's so much power in that. Like,
Mhm.
why did they want to erase us? What was the point? And I mean, I'm really starting to learn about what that actually means and the power of our people and why that happened. And so it's my life's mission to instill in other people that same degree of there is something that is odd about you. There's something that's
Mm.
not all together. There's something that doesn't make sense. It's too much. It's not enough that. And those are your magic. Those are the gold nuggets of truth that you need to release into the world because those are the things that we need, right? There's not enough people doing the amount of work that people need it. And that again is an invitation. It's like everything that I do, I like to say that I'm holding the torch right now. It's burning bright. And I'm going to go as far as I can with this. But at some point, I'm going to have to pass it on to somebody. And are you willing to take the invitation? Because I want you to be better than me. I want you to supersede anything I
Mm.
do. And that's the whole point of why I wake up every single day, again, is to share that, hey, nothing is impossible. Nothing is you can do anything you want. It's just a matter of having the right mindset, the support, and the systems in place that are going to help you to achieve those things. And again, I'm a perfect example of coming from a very small community. You wouldn't even be able to find it on a map. It's that small, the community that I come from. And I wasn't expected a lot of like, and people didn't expect me to
Mhm.
finish school. People didn't expect me to have and do the things that I've done, but it was for me. It was for
Mhm.
me to show, I made a decision very early on, like I said, to be a solution provider, to be productive and to make things better. Because to me, I don't want to live in a world where I'm just okay with the way things are. That's not acceptable to me. And I want to leave the world a better place because there are generational of people who are looking at us. And what are they going to think? By you conducting yourself in that way, you're being an example of what is acceptable. And to
Mhm.
me, I'm like, if I could have the beautifulest things in life, why wouldn't I want them? And I want you to want them as well. And I want you to experience that as well. So, again, it's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful message. And I hope that people truly get the message of, why I work so hard. It's for people to understand that they could truly have and create the destiny that they want for themselves.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you've just said that why wouldn't we want to? And the thing is here, by accepting things, we're not living into our full potential. We are stopping other generations from speaking up and saying, yes, you are, you can do this, you can. And everything you've just said really hits the core of what everyone should be doing now.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, we have and buy into like a lot of excuses of like, oh, that's
Mm.
just the way it is, or oh, that's
Mm.
the mountain is so big that we'll never be able to climb it. And I'm like, yeah, but like imagine if I tried to like walk 30 minutes a day, I would eventually get there, right? So again, to me, it's deciding. Everybody has the choice to either be good or bad. light or dark. And it's so cut and dry, honestly. And that's what it is. It's like, again, I don't want to be an example of what everybody else is doing. I want to be a reason why you want to fight. I want to be a reason why you feel courageous, why you feel bold, why you believe that it's possible for you. You know, that is my life's duty, is to really show people that, hey, you, all you have, like, all you have to do is decide. All you have to do is decide. Even if you mess up again, decide again. You know, and again, obviously, it's taken me a long time to get to this place in my life, because, of course, I also struggle with self-sabotage, you know, self-worth, imposter syndrome all the time. Like, the things that I could achieve if I was 100%, would be phenomenal, you know, and it's a daily task. It's a daily, you know, sometimes we're inundated by, you know, pain and bad attitudes and all of the things, but it's like, no, I used to believe that. I believe this now, right? And again, it's choosing your mind and understanding that your emotions and your thoughts, they are the ones that create your reality. And, you know, people are like, oh, what, you know, I can't control other people. And it's like, you don't have to control anybody. And that is the beautiful piece, is you have the control and the power to be whoever it is that you want to be. You just have to decide.
Absolutely. The possibilities are really endless. And we hear a lot of this, but really it is that your potential is absolutely phenomenal. I really love everything you're saying, everything you're doing, and the difference you're making. And more people need to realize, whether we think we're making a difference or not, we are every day. Whether that's a good difference or a bad difference, you're making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to think most people want, like you said, leave the place in a better condition or a place than they came into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, and I think, like, with my book specifically, the reason that I wrote my book was essentially, it's called Wild Woman: Master the Art of Pride, Presence, and Productivity. And so
Absolutely.
basically, it's a roadmap to self-mastery. And so what I go into is, the first topic, of course, is pride. And of course, when people hear the word pride, it's like, oh, it's your ego being egotistical or being conceited. And again, being an Indigenous person, we're told, and the amount of times I have been told, Anita, be humble, Jared. Oh, I'm so excited for you, the success. Oh, but be humble, Jared. And I'm like, I am the most humblest person that I know. Like, what do you mean, right? And again, it's just this, what people perceive and what they actually, because again, we give a lot of power to certain things that don't necessarily should have power, right? So to me, pride is essentially knowing who you are, where you come from. And again, that's what I talk about in my book, and Wild Women. And this is everything that has ever started for me, is I come from a line of wild women, right? And I draw on that power. And so basically what it means is that when I read this speech, maybe I should read it to you. I think I could do it. Let me do it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I come from a line of wild women, a line of broken dreams and promises, with sand in their eyes as they cried, and blood pulsing out of their wounds. Wild women, torn but not defeated, dirty but not spoiled. Their hearts like thunder, and their beauty just captivating. They breathe through me as if to support me in who I am to become. We are wild women. We cannot be tamed. And so when I speak about this, I have this vision in my mind of, like, my great, great, great grandmother. And she stands in a field and she kind of has this scowl on her face. And I really, like, hone in on that. I'm like, what is she saying to me? Because for me, every woman who has come before me, my mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, her mother, has had to sacrifice pieces of themselves to survive. They had to silence themselves. They had to compromise. They had to, and for me, it's like all of those compromises and all of those sacrifices are now here with me. And how am I going to honor that? By being small, by being complacent, by being mediocre? Absolutely not. And that is the message that I want to speak to people about what a wild woman is. Everybody's a wild person. Everybody, like I said, and the wild, again, is that those versions of yourself that you hide away, right? That's what being a wild person is. And again, when you know where you come from and you draw upon that legacy, that sacrifice, that you have a sense of duty, right? And that's what pride is. Pride is understanding who you are, where you come from, the people you represent, the place you represent, and you walk with that. When you know who you are, you know who you will become. From that, we turn that into presence, which is how you talk, the way you walk, the way you conduct yourself, who you associate yourself with, the things that you feed yourself, and who you know what you connect yourself with. Again, organizations, professions, all of that different stuff. And I think that, you can tell when somebody has conviction in their word, when they've done the work to know what they're saying. Everybody knows people who say things and sell things, and you're just kind of like, this sounds fishy, right? Because you feel it. There's
Mhm.
conviction there. And so that's what presence is. When you walk into a room, people are like, ooh, who's she? Well, she looks powerful. That's how I want my presence to be. And then after all of that, you turn that into productivity, which basically means you didn't go through all of the stuff that you went through for nothing. It's on purpose. You are intended to be able to package that, put that together, to be able to be a message for people that they don't have to go through it, or they can get through it faster. You purpose your pain into purpose, right? You use that ammunition to push you forward to help other people. And that is productivity. That is putting it in motion to help other people to get where it is that, like I said, there's not enough people doing the work for the amount of people that need it. And so again, it's a call to action. And that's what my book is, right? It's an evolution of you becoming a purpose leader, a thought leader, having, you know, a purpose. Because I feel like, a lot of us were okay with like being, regular. And it's like, no, you were brought here for a reason. And that is what, I hope to accomplish with my book, is that let your wild be in the world, be that person, be that change maker, be that disruptor, and be unapologetic about it. And that's what being wild truly is. Yeah. So I hope it makes sense.
Absolutely. And I love the reciting you just did as well. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, are you republishing your book?
Yes, I actually am. So thank you for asking me that. As you can see, I have my different publications here. So I was co-authored in 2 books before my main book, if you will. But at the time, I was using it more as a marketing tool. So it was more geared towards corporate. And it's more of a conversation starter. So it was very surface level and a conversation starter. So now what I've decided to do is go back into uh, publishing, writing, editing. And so what I've done is I've actually put all of the stories back into it, all the meat and potatoes, all the stories that really make it relatable and will make you understand kind of the back end of why I speak as boldly as I do, if you will. So it's been quite an experience for me because, of course, like I said, it is me unraveling myself and giving to the world a bird's eye view into the things that I maybe hold for myself. Because again, I'm very cognizant of the fact that, again, I don't want to, re-traumatize myself or solicit my story, because of course it is so personal and it's a vulnerable space to be able to kind of, and that's what music is as well. It's kind of like you take your heart out of your chest and you're like, here you go, please don't break it, right? And that's the experience of writing and being a musician and putting yourself on a platter for people to kind of feast off of, if you will. So again, it's been such a beautiful experience of it, kind of like a reminder to me of why I started in the first place. And it's been a reinvigoration of why I started, like what is my why? And that is what it is. It's, again, we have such a big responsibility to, our next generation of people that are coming after us and the people that listen to us. it's a big duty. So again, I went back in and we're going to be releasing it hopefully in the winter time. So we'll be doing a whole big media campaign and a whole, so it's really interesting how life works because
Yeah.
it's the book and the music and the showing up like this and speaking authentically. And I feel very grateful because of course I had to go through all of those steps to become this version of myself right now, right? And again, my spirituality, I draw upon that very strongly because that is what gives me my conviction, is that is where I draw from my strength and my power of how it is that I show up in the world. Because of course I don't take credit for any of this, right? I am a extension of the creator here to do a job for him, and that's all I have to do is just do my best in that, right? So again, I give full credit to the great one. And that's, yeah, that is the ultimate, that's who I do it for, is to show that, with God and the creator, that is, you will truly be able to do and be great with that by your side. So yes.
Wow. Inspiring doesn't touch it. You know, you really are. With everything you've done, and you've only touched the surface, and you're going to get your master's. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that is also a very crazy thing. I always tell people that I have a horseshoe in my butt because, again, stuff just happens. I'm like, one day I'm on a stage, at Los Angeles and Las Vegas on a sold out show. And I'm like, oh, how did I get here? And then next thing you know, I'm, like I said, speaking on stages across the world. And I'm like, oh, how did I get here? Right? Like, of course, there's lots of work that gets
Yeah.
done, but it's that's the same thing with the masters. I'm actually in a Indigenous business leadership executive masters of business administration. I never thought that I would be here. Like it's profound to me. I never had any desire to go into this type of education. Of course I have, different things, but I always felt like a piece of paper. I didn't buy into the notion that a piece of paper equated me to be able to say certain things. And yes, I wrote books and I have all of these different things, but that was more so for me. And this master's, I feel like, is really going to help me because what I was finding was that I was coming short in selling this idea to people, right? Like my coaching, my services, because it's soft skills, it's mushy stuff, right? Like it's grief work and self-confidence and all of the things that people can't really quantify, if you will, right? So I took the master's class to be able to create KPIs, metrics, and to be able to sell my ideas on a grand scale. And the fact of the matter is that the course itself is Indigenous based. So it's actually all about decolonizing business, and it's about indigenizing business and bringing Indigenous people to the forefront and to the table where our Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing are at the forefront, and they are just as valuable as PhDs and all of the greats of the world, right? I don't even know what's beyond a PhD because I'm just like, but that's the degree of the knowledge, right? So just because we don't have, CMAs, BAAs, whatever the, allocations are, but the knowledge, the wisdom is just as important as those roles, right? And the difference is that it's an oral tradition, it's an experiential one. You need to be hands-on and you have to go through the rites of passage to get there. So the experience for me has been extremely healing. It has been solidifying and has added to my conviction of the work that I've been doing. And I mean, if I was unstoppable before, just wait until June comes.
Honestly, you empower worldwide through your books, through your art, through your music, your workshop, awakening the wild women within us all. And that's something absolutely phenomenal. It's a gift. I can't even put it into words, but it's really, it needs to be done. I think we all need to have a bit of a part of us that needs to be shaken up.
We definitely need. And I think the biggest difference is when it's done in a safe space, when it's done from a loving space, when it's done from I see so much potential in you, Anita. You are remarkable beyond belief, and I want you to see it too. When you are loved that way, when it's an unconditional love of, it's okay if we mess up. It's okay. I'm going to be right beside you. We're going to get up and we're going to do it again. We're going to try again. That is the difference that, I want the work that I'm doing, of course. And it's so funny because, again, people will be like, oh, Jer is scary and Jer is this and she's that. And it's like, I am only as passionate because I want other people to, I guess maybe like another part of this is I have been in rooms where I have been told no. People didn't get it. People were like, that's stupid. That doesn't matter. Nobody's going to buy it. Like, and I got told something one time. It was a conversation I had when I was talking about me going into my music, and the lovely woman, she said, Jer, imagine you sold all these tickets to the show and it was like hundreds of seats and you sold all the tickets, but nobody showed up. And there was one person at the back at the hall. They were kind of scared. They didn't even know if they wanted to be there, but they wanted to check it out. She goes, would it be worth it to put on your entire show for that one person? I was like, yeah, exactly. And that's the point here. Don't worry about the noise. Don't worry about all the, the negativity or the haters or the half of the people wouldn't even be able to get on a stage. Half of the people wouldn't even be able to go on a camera and say the things that they felt inside of their hearts because we're so afraid to be removed from the pack of sheep. And we're so afraid to be left out, to be left in the back room. We're so afraid of that. And it's like, they're going to follow you too. Did you not know that? Like, and that is the point of the work, is that we have so much power. We just don't realize it. And again, I want to be that reminder to you. You are powerful beyond measure. Even you don't even know what's possible for you. If you allow yourself to just go and be and do and show up, wow.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
Absolutely. I can't echo it enough. I'm excited.
Good.
Seriously.
I did my job.
Yeah. So if there was one key takeaway you want every listener to walk away with today, what would that be?
Nobody has and again, it's so cliche, right? Like, it's one of the things we hear all the time. And it was more or less something like, nobody can hurt you unless you give them permission to, right?
Wow.
That's a huge one. And, we have to understand that, yes, we've been hurt. We've gone through the things we've gone through, systematically. But again, it's understanding that those are mirrors. Those are opportunities. Those are reasons to break the mold. Those are reasons to show them, no, that's not true. And if you let yourself, if you remove yourself from the behavior of people, and you still see people as intact and you see them as they're just acting out things that they believe about themselves, that has nothing to do with me. That might be true for you. And I may have believed that before as well, but I don't believe that anymore. And this is what I want to believe now. So yes, awful things have happened. Yes, there have been travesties and all of this stuff, but you can be the change. You can be the reason why somebody believes again. You can have the audacity to dream again. All of us were little kids at one point. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be this. Let yourself be that. Imagine if you had every perfect condition. You had millions of dollars. You had perfect health. You had everything that you could ever have. Imagine that, believe that that is what's happening right now. And just imagine how differently you would live your life if that's how you actually lived, right? We go through life and we're not as happy. We find reasons of, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. And it's like, no, you can do it all. It's never too late. It's never not the right time. All you got to do is, again, that 30 minutes a day to climb that mountain is going to get you there eventually, right? So believe, take action, make a plan, get an accountability coach. And that's what I tell people I'm an accountability coach, because of course I can see it and I'll mirror it back to you and I hold you accountable to get there. So again, that would be my message, is that all you got to do is choose.
Wow. Love it. I love it all. So where can the listeners find you online, your books, your music, your website, Geraldine?
Yeah, of course, I have all of those things. If you are looking for the speaker coach, all that type of stuff. Of course, it's Geraldine Carriere. And then, of course, if you're looking for more of the music, art stuff, it's Jer Carriere. So you can find me on all of the platforms online. My website is wildwomenwithin.me. And of course, yeah, I'm on all of Apple, Spotify, all the beautiful things. Follow, share. I would love to have you reach out to me if you hear this podcast. Let me know how you're being wild today. I encourage it. I love it. You know, people say, be good. I'm like, don't be good. Be not in a bad, disrespectful way, but in a way that, again, allows us to be our authentic self. So yeah, I would love to hear from everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been incredible. It's such a healing conversation. I hope that it was as impactful and something that you wanted, and that, you know, it came to be. I was very nervous to do this today, and I mean, I'm very elated. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I cannot echo that enough. It's been a fabulous conversation, and all the links are in the show notes. Listeners, please do get in touch, listen to the music, look at the website, absolutely get in touch with Geraldine, because she's inspirational is an understatement. She's vulnerable is an understatement. She's real is understatement. I really don't know how to, but this is the thing. You don't fit in any box. And I love people like that, like me. That's what we do. So we're the best type of people to find the difference.
Yep, exactly.
And make the difference.
Exactly. Make the difference is real. That is what it is. So yeah, incredible. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today. And by doing so, you have helped so many people make a difference. I really want to acknowledge you for that, Geraldine Carriere. And we are all about Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
It is being unapologetically yourself and not feeling bad about it.